So Don, there's been a lot of coverage of the issues around scrubbers. To what extent were we able to tackle head-on some of the misconceptions at the opening session today?
Well, I thought that the five panelists were very good in the fact that they all focused on different areas. So, for example, the issues around corrosion, the issues around monitoring and recording and making that available in the cloud and potentially for regulators to demonstrate compliance. The cost and payback issue is a very big one, and that was even very clearly demonstrated from Laura Lang's presentation. And just the history of how scrubbers have been developed and their applications from different types of ships, from cruise through to large VLCCs.
Let's drill down a little deeper on the economics, because obviously a lot of a person's decision to adopt the technology will hinge on that.
Yes, it will, and I think that's one that probably segments the market for scrubbers. My thought was that a ship using 30 tons per day and operating 225 to 250 days a year would suit a wet scrubber. Below that level, say around 20 tons a day, then the economics in terms of the payback and therefore the risk increase quite significantly. But I did learn today that 25 tons a day seems to be the cutoff level. And of course, in the exhibition today, we've seen our first new dry scrubber come in, which is targeted at the market of between 5 and 10 megawatt engines, so probably in the region of 10 to 15 tons a day of fuel. So there is a range there. Not every scrubber fits every application, so the owner needs to think about that and look at the one that gives him the best service, the best experience, and the best payback.
Something you were very keen to dispel from the outset was that there would be any relaxation of the deadline.
Yes, I think the wishful thinking really needs to stop. It's 2020 and that's that, and we're all getting on with it. We're looking at how compliance can be fairly implemented, what the sorts of detention and enforcement will be in the case where there is non-compliance, and how we can create a level playing field for all, whether you're using some technology to meet the emissions compliance or whether you're using a fuel-based approach.
Do you think after, as you said at the beginning of the session, you've been involved with the GCSA, I think, for 10, 11 years. It was 4 or 5 members to start. It's now in the order of 40, 50. Has scrubbers' time finally come?
I would like to hope so. I'm a cautious guy, and I think that we need to see a bit more pickup. I think we've got to a stage in 2018 where many of the cautions, comments, probably negative views are disappearing, and now people are starting to say, is this the way I need to go, or should I be going for LNG, or should I be going for compliant fuel? How old are my ships? What will they look like in 2020? Am I making enough profit to install a ballast water system as well? But yeah, it's looking much, much more positive now. Yeah.
And on average, what is the return on investment?
Well, I can't say because I'm not a ship operator, but I do talk to some of the RoRo operators who were the early adopters in the ECAs, and I have an awareness from the cruise sector, and I would say the return on investment in terms of cash is significant. The payback periods have been sort of less than 2 years. And at the moment, most of them are operating at a saving as opposed to using a low sulfur fuel. So the return on investment is a number that would increase as long as there's a big differential, that improvement would continue. They're saving money today.
And do you think the whole case for scrubbers has been boosted by the IMO decision of last week?
Yes, I think we probably need a slap on the wrist in EGSA because we haven't really sold the benefits of the CO2. People see extra energy being used for pumping seawater around or caustic soda around to do the neutralization. We mustn't forget that if we use seawater, there is also a reaction in the sea which creates some CO2. But in the whole, in the holistic view, from well to wake, Konkawi, and when we did the early studies back in the early 2000s with the Secretary General at IMO, the well-to-wake emission from converting to MGO is around about 18% increase in CO2. The well-to-wake for using heavy fuel in a scrubber is probably around 3% increase in CO2. So significant saving to be had there, and we need to take that to IMO and make sure they're aware of that.
Finally, Don, it's day 2 of the conference. How do you feel it's gone?
I think this has been an exceptionally interesting conference. I found yesterday's presentations extremely stimulating. I do go to a lot of conferences. I do hear a lot of the same things. Yesterday I found that there was so much new information, it was great. Today I'm very pleased with how the panel's gone. Nobody spent their time doing a sales talk. It was looking at different aspects which I hope the ship owners would have been found useful and interesting. So a terrific event, and I hope we can repeat it.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.